Hi, everybody. My name is Tori Antonino. I'll be chairing this meeting this evening. This is our January meeting of the Urban Forestry Committee. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be held remotely. It is in compliance with all the laws. So I don't have that thing I'm supposed to read, but the Urban Forestry Committee is a volunteer branch of the city, committee of the city, and we are here to help to advise the public space and urban forestry division on plantings, on green space, on trees, acting as a support for them. And we also hear concerns of residents regarding all things trees in the city. And I would like now for everyone to introduce themselves. And I believe we go in alphabetical order by first name. So Amy, please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Amy Myrtle. I'm a member of the committee. My background is in insect community ecology and urban ecology. So I'm interested in thinking about our urban systems and how they can support human health as well as biodiversity.
Thank you. Chris.
Thank you. I'm Chris Dwan. I am the other co-chair of the committee, and I'm a local activist, very passionate about our urban canopy and making sure that the city is as green and as healthy as it can possibly be.
Connor.
Hi everyone, Connor Guidarelli. I'm a horticulturalist at the Arnold Arboretum, and I'm on the committee because I care about the urban tree cover and the green space here in the city, looking how I can help. So glad to be here as always. Good to see everyone.
And Jennifer Clifford.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. My name is Jennifer. I have a plant pathologist. I have a background in plant pathology. I'm really interested in plant health, specifically tree health and how it pertains to our urban forest. And I really think it's very important to engage the community and bring the community into these conversations. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Leah.
Hey everyone, I'm a landscape designer. My name's Leah. I work in the city of Boston, but do projects all around the area. I'm excited to help diversify our urban tree canopy and make sure that all of our trees are healthy and we engage our residents in caring for them.
Thank you, Leah. And as a quick aside, I want to congratulate her on passing her exams. I'm not sure exactly what exams, but I know you've been studying hard. And good job.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm almost a landscape architect, so I'm very excited.
Murphy, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm a student at Essex Tech. I joined the Youth Urban Forestry Committee because I'm trying to learn as much as I can to assist my arborist career, which I'm currently working on. And I'm currently a tree worker out of Cambridge Landscaping.
Cool. As Murphy said, she is our youth member, and we're very glad to have her. Me. Well, okay. Hi, I'm Tori Antonino. I am a co-chair of the Urban Forestry Committee. I am an ecological landscaper, contractor, and a consultant. And I am passionate about using all of our spaces to restore the ecosystem and bring back the insects and get our wildlife rehabilitated. So with that, Vanessa.
I didn't get to introduce myself. I think me, Malik, and Althea still haven't.
Oh,
didn't get to
you
go.
know what?
So
I guess I'm looking at the attendees.
Oh, yeah. Staff I think Althea's at the very top, so you might have been.
Okay,
And Malik
Althea.
and I show up as public space and urban forestry, so easy to skip. Anyways, I'm Vanessa Bukili. I'm the Senior Urban Forestry and Landscape Planner and member of this committee. I've been working for the city for about 5 years and really care about trees and making them the best they can be for our whole city.
We thank you. Althea. Oh, Althea, we'll get back to you. Malik, how you doing?
Pretty good. Hello, I'm Malik Drayton. I'm the Urban Forestry and Landscape Planner, Deputy Tree Warden and Conservation Agent for the City of Somerville. I've been working for the City of Somerville for about 3 years now, and my interests pertain to tree protection, tree preservation, and maintenance. Thank you.
Althea.
Looks like you're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Althea, you chime in when you get sorted with technology, and you can just interrupt. But for now, oh, sorry. There's a chat. Someone in the chat. I'm not sure.
Althea says in chat that she's going to call in for audio.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Let's advance to housekeeping. And are there any items in housekeeping that we need to review?
We want to give the other attendees a chance to introduce themselves before we
Oh,
move on.
that's right. Thanks, Vanessa.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyone who's in the audience or attendees and those in the audience, we'd love to hear who you are. And so, oh,
I
sorry.
think we'll have to unmute them. So maybe call them in order, and I will unmute.
Okay.
And if they want to speak, they can unmute themselves too.
So I see Juan Guzman and Palacios. Please correct me on how to say your name.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I can't figure. Okay, cool. Sorry, my webcam is not, or it is working now. I'm a landscape architect with Marble. We're going to be presenting the civic space for 50 Webster Avenue today.
Okay, thanks for coming. I have Tyler.
Hi everyone. Yeah, what a group. I'm so excited to be here. And Tori was at the most recent neighborhood meeting that explored the application for 50 Webster and 62 Prospect Street, which is a building and a civic space. Juan and I have been working closely with the city and with the client and have been in front of the neighborhood twice. And Tori suggested that we meet with you today, and we're really happy to be here. And we don't always get to speak with people who are so well versed in ecology and trees, especially in an urban environment. So we're kind of here to learn more than anything. I'm a citizen pruner for the city of New York and the city of Richmond, Virginia. So I'm like always trying to learn, and I'm already learning a lot so far. So we're excited to present a little bit to you and get some feedback and just hear what you think. So thanks for having us.
Well, now I'm interested in citizen pruning, and that sounds like something wonderful to bring to Somerville. So in the audience, we have Crystal H.
Hi, this is Crystal Huff. I am just somebody who is interested in general. I'm just a resident.
Resident and member of Mamas, if I'm not mistaken. Jake? Oh, counselor. We have a counselor at large, Jake Wilson.
Hi, everyone. I'm your counselor at large. I'm also on the Public Safety Building Committee, so I'm here to listen.
Thank you. Kate Cloud. Oh, okay. Renee Scott.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Renee Scott, Green and Open Somerville resident. And I'm going to put in a plug. I would really love to see all city-sponsored community meetings that are online be on Zoom, where the audience members don't feel like they're in a locked box, unable to chat and see other people. And ideally, I think every meeting should have interpretation in as many languages as we can get. So I'm not singling anyone out here. I'm saying any meeting I'm going to try to say this from now on, because I think it's really important that we really have it feel like a community meeting and not that we're watching a television screen. Thanks.
Renee, you always bring such relevant things to the table, and I want to use that as a segue. Vanessa, can we now promote those in the audience to panelists so everyone can see the chat and see who's here and interact? So very good prompt, Renee. And hopefully we can look into having the option of a translator, so I'd love to, look into that. Not sure how we do it, but I know we have a lot of great minds at the city. So we're going to go into resident concerns now. For anyone in the audience who has concerns, please feel free to jump in. We want to hear from you.
Lori, could I mention a quick housekeeping before we get there?
Of course, and please introduce yourself, Althea.
My name is Althea Northcross. I am a landscape architect working in the Boston area, and I'm thrilled to be a part of this illustrious group. My housekeeping is that I am taking minutes today, but I know we have a packed schedule, and if we go beyond the 6:30 point, I'm going to need a volunteer to help out because I do have to duck out right at 6:30. If anyone could be willing to jump in, Vanessa will jump in at that point. That would be great, and just in case. Thank you.
Thanks, Althea. Okay, again, any resident concerns from people in the audience?
I have.
I just want to get on the spotted lantern fly rail again.
Yep.
Just quickly. Some egg masses were found in Shrewsbury. So I just wanted to bring that up and say that please, if everybody could be on the lookout, that's what we'd be looking for at this stage. They're gray, kind of flattish egg masses that are laid on all sorts of various things, trees and inanimate objects such as tires and window boxes and decks and things like that. But it almost looks like the color of duct tape, and they're fairly large, maybe could fit like on the palm of the hand. So I just wanted to say that again. I know we've talked about it and bring it up a lot, but I do want to say more have been spotted. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Anyone on the UFC who has concerns? Amy.
Hi, I have sorry, my headphone. I have not a concern, but I just wanted to make a little announcement, I guess. I was at a meeting earlier today with a group of different kind of representatives from different groups that are really interested in trying to bring a Miyawaki forest to Somerville, similar to the one that was planted in Cambridge at Danahy Park. And a Miyawaki forest, for those who don't know that term, I just learned that term. It's a very densely packed forest where you pack kind of lots of trees and shrubs and undergrowth kind of all together in a kind of a carefully planned format to create a really dense, thick forest in a small area, so it's a way to kind of pack a lot of trees into an urban space. So I just want to kind of make an announcement. It's very much at the beginning, just a group of people from Mothers Out Front, Green and Open Somerville, Growing Center, Climate Coalition of Somerville, just kind of brainstorming on how it could happen, what spaces it might be able to happen in, how to fund it. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out if anyone on the committee or in the audience is interested in that idea. You could contact Green and Open Somerville is kind of organizing it, so you could contact them. And Renee Scott is here as well, but she also could have made that announcement, I guess. But just wanted to throw that out there for anyone who might be interested.
Thank you, Amy. That's a great idea. So excited about that. Chris, I see your hand.
It's kind of a tail end tree issue. I was wondering if anybody from the city could just run through the holiday tree disposal schedule and how long that runs and how we're doing it. And I'm sure like I saw at one point the city tree chipper drive down my street running with 2 workers flinging trees into the back of it while it went. And I'm wondering, what's the schedule for that? How long do we have? Did I already miss the window?
Great question. If anyone has any better information than me, feel free to correct me, but generally they pick up on trash days throughout January. So same day as your trash, although people put them out on other days and you might get lucky and get them picked up sooner. I imagine it's the same this year as usual, but I haven't actually heard for sure. So
thank you.
And just quick follow-up, are they made available in the spring? And if they are, maybe we can address that then.
What do you mean? Who's they?
Are made available to the public? Why did I have that in my head as something that we do?
Christmas trees? I just don't know what you mean.
No, the mulch, the wood chips that come from them.
I'm pretty sure we don't give wood chips out. We have a policy to not provide wood products to residents because they may harbor pests and we don't want to cause an infestation.
Okay.
I did remember, if everyone else was done, a sort of housekeeping-ish announcement-y thing. Should I go forward?
Please.
Okay, so I had mentioned, at least to the chairs, that Mark Lawhorn isn't working for the city, but we do have a new tree warden, a full-time tree warden who will be starting on Monday, working with DPW. So Malik and I will be telling him about UFC amongst everything else tree related in the city, but we hope that he'll be attending meetings going forward.
That is great news. I'm sorry to hear about Mark, but so pleased. Mr. Dwan.
May I ask, Vanessa, is the new tree warden position reporting into public space and urban forestry or into DPW?
DPW and grounds department.
Awesome, thank you.
Hopefully going forward, maybe this committee will serve as that much needed conduit, so we can all talk together. I know, moving away from operating in silos is something that the Urban Forestry Management Plan addresses, and PSAF, you guys are right there too. So, okay, look forward to building bridges. Let's go right into the civic space for 50 Prospect Street. This is part of US 2's master plan, and it is a plaza civic space. I think it's on the D3.1 parcel, and Tyler can correct me. And just Juan and Tyler, you have the floor.
I can make one of you presenters if you have slides to share. Tyler, okay.
Yeah, please. Thank you. I wasn't paying great attention to the names of the attendees, but I don't know if anyone was there, but I do know that Tori was there. So let's just see if this works. Can someone give me a confirmation if this is being viewed?
Yes.
Yes, great. Excellent. there we go. We have this, incredible opportunity to work with the city and to not just, provide kind of design services for this site, which for those of you who don't know is kind of the bow tie intersection of Webster and Prospect, just south of the commuter rail, south of the Prospect Street overpass, but running kind of alongside it in parallel. Since kind of starting to work with this team, the US2 team, on the D31 block, you're right about that. I've been able to spend a lot of time in Somerville and been able to walk some of the streets and to consider some of the just kind of bigger, broader picture items that are kind of also concurrent. The initiative for streetscape redesign. I know there's a kind of a design team tackling that with the city and the engineers and other local design talent. We've been able to kind of meet with them and to understand a lot of what they're trying to do from a streetscape and kind of placemaking perspective, which I wish I had the chance to meet with you all then, because there's nothing better than a kind of a fall time kind of site walkthrough to look at trees and the health of trees and to kind of discuss and debate what's working and what's not. I was a New York City resident for a long time and lived in Maine prior to that, and currently in Richmond, Virginia. And my eyes are always wide open to the way trees are kind of treated and planted and maintained, and all of that is so critical to the health and life of a city. So I hope we can kind of all think about that today. And again, we're just here for input. We really want to kind of know what best practices are that you've seen and species selection, and this is also my first time hearing that term about a dense urban forest. So I'm interested in hearing more about that too. So I'll go through this really briefly so we could have a lot of time to talk. But we presented recently and we kind of spoke a little bit about how to create a plaza that is for Union Square and for Somerville, and not one that feels kind of adherent to the building and to the ground floor program of the new, quite large labs and life sciences building that's going to be erected in that area. But what we did kind of get from a takeaway from our site visits and our street walkthroughs, and these are some of the images with the city, it's just kind of general issues of walkability. And here you're probably not seeing a ton of trees on these streets. They're quite narrow. Not all of them are ADA accessible. So we're very much thinking about that as we go. But now as we kind of move further along in the process, we're really trying to think about how the plants that we're providing and the planted areas that we're suggesting are productive and not just ornamental, not just checking a box, but are there to kind of live on. And that's why I think this is such an important kind of time for the project, is that we get to think about that and look at some of the other elements, especially as it relates to Webster and Prospect. We know these are busy streets. They typically on peak hours have like a low level of service just in terms of traffic and queuing. So there is idle vehicles in the area quite often. There's this is essentially almost due north, this view. So you can imagine there's a lot of midday to late afternoon sun, like direct sun, which is a blessing and a curse these days. So we want to think about how to take advantage of the solar orientation and what that means for just general in terms of the heat island effect, and how we can reduce the heat on hardscape, as it were, that you often feel in both in new plazas, but also in plazas in general that don't take those things into consideration. So this is the layout currently, where we have kind of plazas that both face inward and outward. We're looking to create spaces such as in the middle of the page, where contiguous planters have just as much of a presence on the street as plazas do, because we think that that's really important, especially here, that intersection that has so much kind of such a visual impact, being where the building is closest to the street. We wanted to have that building column land in a soft scape, one that kind of disrupts the feeling that the building is encroaching on the public sphere, and one that kind of buffers that with plants. So this is where we are currently. We're in kind of the schematic design phase, but we're moving quickly because the city process kind of forces us to do so, and we're trying to make sure we pause and reflect as often as possible to think through elements like what we're describing today. One of the things I think that's relevant for tonight is that there is a large canopy tree requirement, and I don't have the numbers in front of me. Juan, you may remember, but I think that the caliper size upon planting is quite large, which I know has some benefits, but it also, again, has some drawbacks, and we're interested in knowing more about kind of the sourcing you all do and where you think really good nurseries are located and where we might look to source from. Because again, those a 4 to 5 inch caliper tree is not insignificant upon planting and then living in this environment that it's absolutely not used to. It's probably somewhere in a nursery, and it's slightly different environmental conditions, but something to think about and something we'd love to hear about. And so we, in a way, we feel that the plants and the kind of the plant layout is what's kind of forming the shapes that we are going to occupy here. So we have these two, what we were kind of earlier and still kind of calling green rooms. We have this kind of North Prospect Street green room and the Webster Ave green room that are kind of ensconced in planting. So they create these kind of enclosures or rooms that you can kind of feel, I don't know, embraced by. And then at the Northern Plaza, there's an opportunity, since it's the highest elevation, which kind of is shown here, as being fairly prominent from like an urban planning or urban design standpoint, where northbound traffic on Prospect or southbound traffic on Prospect, and views from all over, really, like views from the bike lanes up Webster and Prospect. Really, this northern part of the plaza comes into view, and that's where we're suggesting more of a kind of a structural element. But as you saw from the rendering earlier, we want to kind of buoy that with this, sandwiching of dense trees, and that's the idea of the kind of the dense urban forest is one that we're very interested in, and would love to hear some feedback tonight on what types of species survive in that kind of density, because that's an area that we think would be really nice to have that, because it has a couple things. One, it sandwiches that pavilion, and it kind of creates this even more interesting kind of vertical component, and it's not just structure or architecture, but it's trees. But it also attenuates sound from the commuter rail and from the T. And we think that that's kind of important, just in terms of that, from what we heard in the community, that there is quite a bit of sound that kind of echoes up through that area. And as this plaza gets built, and the building gets built, it may force other kind of sound issues that we want to try to attenuate with plants there. So moving a little quicker, so this is kind of along the west facade. You can see the building rising here. We're looking to use some really kind of haptic, tactile material at the ground level on the building. And I should mention that Marvel is designing the building facade and also the landscape. And so here we're trying to kind of marry the materiality of the building and the site, but again, creating as much space as we can to let the plants kind of dictate the flow and the spaces that the plaza creates. And then again, thinking about, we had this slide in here, which maybe this is similar to what was described earlier, as potentially using some of these zones to really plant densely. And I think that's what you see here in terms of the urban forest, or really just create areas of shade and comfort. Maybe even find places this is at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, where there's this really densely packed stormwater retention, bioretention garden. And then, otherwise looking at elements like this, like the green room concept that I described earlier. And then within those kind of planted rooms and the plantscape in general, there's other opportunities and other features, like to potentially use and work with local artists for sculpture or murals. Thinking about that pavilion on the north side, dark sky lighting, no uplighting on the trees, really just thinking about how to kind of illuminate the space at the ground floor so that the trees can have night and day as they need. And Yeah, so these are, I'll just kind of move through these quickly because I want to hear what you all have to say. But again, just creating kind of density, dense canopy. Looking also, you kind of see in the image on the left, some semblance of evergreen and maybe some dawns. It looks like there's some kind of dawn redwood foliage over there on the left. Something like that, where there is also a mix in the plant community. I know these are just renderings, so you take what you get. They kind of look like a bunch of oak trees or young maples or something. But the idea is that this would be a kind of a mixed planting area. So maybe I'll go. I don't know if you want me to leave this up on the screen or should I turn this off? Maybe I could leave one of the plans up for a moment and we could talk about it briefly, and then I could turn this off and we can see each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, I'm just gonna ask the committee to weigh in. Connor.
Hey, thanks for that presentation, Tyler. Appreciate it. I was just one quick question about the location. I see that's over where Beacon Sales
Yes.
used to be, and I noticed that is the site going to be brought up to grade with the street, or is all this going to be below street grade for this park?
Yeah, I'm going to move around as these questions come because I think that's good. The idea is that the plaza will elevate with the existing grade of the sidewalk.
Okay.
So we're looking to keep it, like, marry it the whole way, as opposed to having it sunk in on the north. Because if we kept to where it's the grade currently, I think the existing grade right now at the bottom of Beacon Sales building is about 13 or 14 feet. The current elevation of the sidewalk right here is roughly 31. So it took a little finessing, but we twisted the client's arm, and we decided to bump up rather than to sink it down. So everything's flush with the street, basically.
Okay, great, thanks.
And just to follow up on that question, so that means where you have your pavilion structure, you're sort of overlooking the train tracks there?
Right.
In the rail? And so how much of it will be over structure? Or is it actually going to be grade under that point, building up?
By structure, you mean like building below grade?
Yeah.
So there is parking on this project that's subterranean. It doesn't extend all the way to the sidewalk. It actually only extends, I think, 18 feet or so off the building. The rest will be fill, and that gives us the opportunity to have the soil volume that we need. And I hope, there are soil volume requirements, minimums, but we're looking to try to achieve kind of big contiguous planters so that the soil medium can be shared amongst plants. And that's why we try to do as much contiguous planting as possible.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, that'll be a big consideration in terms of species. If there is, sort of that first strip along the building, if that's going to be over, over a parking garage or over structure. There's a lot of limitations on weight requirements and sort of getting in. I think what you said earlier, getting in those larger trees will be an interesting challenge. Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. I think I'll have more questions as we go.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Amy.
Hi, I put in the chat a couple of links about the forest that was planted in Cambridge that I mentioned earlier.
Thank you.
Forest. I don't know any more than that's in those links. I'm learning more myself, but it does say in there that you could plant it in an area as small as 50 square feet. So I don't know how big exactly your areas are, but that's something of use. You could definitely look into that, and if we learn more, we could certainly communicate with you all as well. Or if someone else on the panel already knows more, feel free.
50 square feet. I mean, 50 square feet is probably the smallest green piece that I'm trying to highlight with my cursor. I don't know if my cursor's showing, but yeah, I think 50 square feet is kind of a minimum, and similar to kind of a standard. I don't know what the standard tree pit opening is on a street tree, but 50 seems about right. So that's good to know because I think we have the surface area to try that. I'll be sure to look it up because I'd love to know what kind of trees are capable of being supported in such a kind of dense arrangement. But I do see it quite often in more newer plazas and newer kind of public parks that pop up, that I think designers and horticulturists are doing that more frequently, and it's something I hope I'm looking forward to seeing the benefits of.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Thank you.
Jennifer.
Hi, thank you, Tyler. That was really nice, and I was really interested to see this. I'm pleased to hear that you're going to do some mixed plantings, because I think, especially now considering some of these more dense, smaller but very dense forested kinds of regions, that would be important from a disease or pest standpoint should one get introduced into an area, you know, that you'd have less vulnerability of certain species. And I do want to emphasize the use of the evergreens, because I think the proximity to the streets, the proximity to the train tracks, and considering all the car idling and pollution, there would be really great to plant species that mitigate pollution, air particles, and also buffer some of that noise. So while, you know, we're looking for aesthetically pleasing sorts of things, you know, maybe varying flowering times and leaf out times and leaf drop times, you know, where we can have a range throughout the season, to have that kind of evergreen to help buffer that, I think is an important aspect of it. So thank you for including that.
If there's, again, I mean, I'm going to be collecting all the chat links. If there's any links you have or that you know of specific to Somerville or the region that talks about pollution mitigate or particulate mitigation, especially as it relates to automobile particulate, that would be helpful. So it's something we're hoping to do too. And that was one of the first layouts of the whole plaza, was essentially to create these large, swooping, kind of wide planted buffers, knowing that sound and particulate matter were an issue, but also because it would give us an area to plant trees that would cast midday and afternoon shade back across the plaza to the east. So we're trying to kind of think through all the potential elements that can be kind of achieved with just like the right layout, and then we would then get into the weeds, so to speak, with what types of plants perform the best for those reasons.
Right.
So if you have anything, we'd be happy to see it.
I might not be able to find it during tonight's meeting, but I could maybe, or Vanessa might have something to say. But before that, if I could just say, we have talked in the past about other urban areas that suffer from particulate matter and other sorts of air pollution, and the idea of putting up these clear kinds of barriers has been discussed around the city as a way to protect against that. So whether or not that could be incorporated as far as a design element, or something that you give some consideration to. And with that, I'll let Vanessa say her piece. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I really like the design so far, and all these living room elements are really cool. Just to speak more to the air pollution thing, I put a link in the chat of species that that we are working towards planting in Somerville. This is a list that came out of our urban forest management plan, and the Urban Forestry Committee worked on this species list. And if you go to the link, there's a column for recommended for improving air quality. So that could be a good place to start. There's not that many of them. And there are some evergreen trees in here. The Google Sheet is divided into native species and then introduced. And then there's some sort of bonus ones that are pretty challenging for me to plant on streets, but are good for other types of areas. So those are sort of separate, but definitely worth poking around and seeing if any of this is useful to you.
This is so helpful. I'm already perusing it. This looks great. Thank you.
Sure.
Chris?
Yeah, I I don't have any particular technical detail to add. You can see that we have put a bunch of thought into species selection and planting guide and sort of a plan for the city. I encourage you as you go forward to use this committee as a resource. I know from experience we are wildly enthusiastic to engage with the details. So this does not have to be a one and done. If you're talking to less than 6 of us at a time, there's no concerns about quorum, and people. This crew loves to be asked questions and think about it and provide answers. While I have the mic, I will just mention that I have heard a little bit of concern about some of the stair-like elements in terms of accessibility for folks with mobility challenges. Just that's something to be particularly sensitive to, particularly it's very important to all of us, I think, that all of our construction and spaces be accessible and usable by all members of the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Similarly, while I'm there, I've heard many concerns about brick as opposed to smooth surfaces for folks who have to roll over with wheels of any sort. On day 1, brick is said to be great, but on day like 600, it usually degrades into garbage. So just not going to try to micromanage it, but those are 2 pieces of feedback that I've heard.
That's okay. We're not planning on using any brick on the ground plane. So yeah, we know the harsh environments that can ensue, and we're going to try to do everything we can, especially as it comes to material selection. As for ADA, it is, especially for you about to be future landscape architects, and congratulations again on that. This project has really kind of tested the fundament, in my mind, has tested us in terms of the fundamentals of landscape design, which is how do you provide, like, this from the top to the bottom of this relatively, you know, I don't know, small is not the right word, but confined plaza or constricted, it's a 12-foot elevation change. So I think what we have been tasked with doing, and it's been a really interesting challenge, is how do you create as many contiguous flat occupiable zones while also mitigating the slope. And the existing slope on the sidewalk on Prospect Street right now is already encroaching on being non-accessible. It's almost at 5%, which is the max you can have without a handrail. And so it has been a really interesting challenge, and one we're trying to adhere to. We're going to meet with a disability coordinator next week, I believe, or in the very near future to talk about these things. And yeah, I appreciate the comment. We're trying, we're doing what we can to try to make sure that that is top of mind. And so a lot of this layout reflects that too. I would say that plants and accessibility are kind of maybe the top 2 of the top 3 or 4 considerations. So I hope we meet expectations.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I can maybe wrap it up with a couple last points. And yeah, I definitely hear you on the, I'm familiar with this site and bike past it and walk past it all the time. And I can imagine how challenging the grading is for this project. So I can totally appreciate that. And I guess two additional like clarifying questions. One about maintenance. Would it be, it's going to be a public, I probably should have attended the meeting and you probably covered this, but
okay.
Is it going to be public, sort of a publicly owned space, or is it going to be sort of operated by the tenants of the building or the owner of the building?
I believe this is kind of before we were involved in the project, but I believe that the master plan, the approved CPSD or the master plan has it that the tenant is responsible for maintenance. So it's basically a privately owned public space.
Yep.
And as such, it's open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. Lights, signage, all that stuff is there, but they will be maintaining it. There's also, they have quite a bit of plant maintenance that they, not just here, but elsewhere too. So it's a question I've asked, and I always try to ask it at this level because I always want to get irrigation in the project, and want to make sure that the plants will be maintained past implementation. It's a great question. It really is like what makes or breaks a good project over the years. So it's a good question. It's one I haven't really discussed internally too deeply recently, but I'll be sure to make it sure that's a point. But as for street trees, I think everything outside the property line, where you kind of see the property line along the streetscape inset about 8 feet or so.
Yep. Those
I
will
believe
probably
street trees are in public realm, public right of way, and therefore are maintained by the city.
that makes sense. So yeah, I guess on that front, anything, you know, you have our backing to talk about maintenance as much as you can early on, because I think that, especially with Milwaukee forests and densely planted, it's something I'm coming across a lot about how, you know, how do we plant beautiful perennial landscapes and keep them maintained? So I don't have the answers, but I think talking about it more and making sure there is a maintenance plan that is beyond the first year, as you mentioned. And then I'd also just say in this area, this might be beyond our scope, but this seems like a pretty large public space, which is amazing and something we don't have a lot of in Somerville, like having big plazas. And I know it's sort of right across the bridge from a lot of other new development going up in Union Square. And I guess I'm questioning the amount of plaza space and maybe advocating for more planting. That's probably, I don't know if ratios are sort of set and established, but this corner is more adjacent to residential, a residential area. And unless there, you know, I see that there's retail, but I think it's going to be probably 10, 15 years before this is a super bustling place that a lot of people are drawn to, since Union Square is sort of the destination, and this would be on the way to get there. So yeah, maybe just a intrigue as to, you know, can we bump out, you know, would it be possible to double the amount of planted area, which might help with accessibility challenges as well, because you can make up a lot of grade in planted spaces. And again, that's probably something that's said already, but something that I would encourage and echo, just sort of knowing this space and knowing that this area is also a really critical place where we need a lot more trees in Somerville. So I'll leave it with that. But yeah, it's really exciting and beautiful work. So thank you for sharing it. It's fun to be on the other side of this.
Yeah, there's a minimum according to zoning for what this space classifies as. We're exceeding it, and we're trying to exceed it. I think we're currently have doubled it, and that's reflected in this and the semi next iteration as we kind of continue to evolve the design a little bit and make tweaks. I think you'll be happy that it's skewing in that direction.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jennifer.
Hi, thanks. Can I thank you, Leah, for that, because I would like to just reiterate what she said about trying to, you know, increase as much as possible the planting space. And maybe at the same time, I've been thinking about, you know, the importance of having these layers, and you showed some understory and some understory plants and perennials, and to really feel like we're strongly supportive of that sort of approach of having as much as we can, if we're limited to the number of large trees, that we can really provide habitat and food and some other sorts of resources by planting perennials and understory plants. So as much as possible, we can fill in space with those sorts of plantings. And so I appreciate keeping that in mind. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, I'm want to try to end at 5:30 for this item, but I'm just going to say a few words. Ultimately, one big concern is having this civic space so close to the road. I'll just put it out there. I'm wondering if the buildings can be moved to have this be more of a courtyard rather than a plaza. That is, I mean, a plaza courtyard rather than something that's just adjacent to the street and is going to be just in a, there's going to be a lot of traffic. And, you know, even with robust plantings, you know, particulate matters are just going to settle in that area. And I worry about the health of people. So that is a concern I have with US too, in this design, in the layout of this. That said, I am enjoying, you know, sort of the sine curves and the swoopiness, and you mentioned at the meeting, kind of like echoing this, you know, flow, river ebbs and flows, and I appreciate that. I would love to see this, the greenery, you know, beefed up by 50%. Could you show the image of, there was people dining, and next to them was a, like, maybe it was a 2-foot swath of plants. And I looked at that and I'm like, would that be doubled in size? Yeah, so right there, people, you know, whatever, having coffee, like that strip looks like it's about 2 feet. Maybe it's 3 feet. Can it be 4 feet? You know, little things like that where we might be able just to beef it up a little. I'm glad Jennifer brought up sort of potentially having clear, you know, barriers to protect against pollution. I think studies are coming out that a 3-foot hedge does some mitigation for particulate matter, and I'll have to, I'll share a link for that, not right now, but so I'm wondering if you might meet with the Species Selection and Planting Standards Committee, because we are working on a document that is populating it. That's just really giving you know, detailed list of plants beyond what we've done in the urban, beyond the good work we've done in the urban forestry management plan. So for me, I want to encourage this to be, go for 100% native plants. That's one of my main recommendations. I'm just going to, it is part of the goal for Katiana Ballantyne as she laid out on her 100-day agenda. One of the points was for the public space and urban forestry to work to figure out how we get 100%, not just in parks, not just in, you know, riparian areas, but everywhere. So that's she was the one who drafted, well, who sponsored the native planting ordinance, and that is a main objective for her. So I just have a lot of, I mean, a lot of suggestions for plants, and I'm just gonna give broad strokes, and that is a bloom time, a consecutive bloom time from April through October. And so that means incorporating early blooming species like willows, like spice bush, red maples leaf out or provide early nectar as well. So we want to just hit every single moment of the season, because our, you know, our bees are specialized and they need to have their plants at every time. So I also want to encourage you to look at, I believe it'd be an upland, like basically if you go hiking in the fells, you get to the top of the fells, which is a park in the area, a natural preserve. So you're going to see a lot of like juniper, you're going to see a lot of staghorn sumac, you're going to see blueberry, you're going to see little blue stem, and it's just going to give you a nice palette of evergreen and deciduous trees. Yeah, again, like I want the zizia and the columbine and Virginia bluebells and Penstemon digitalis, and your asters and goldenrod are going to be key. You have to have those. Milkweed, of course, Asclepias tuberosa is a favorite. I like swamp milkweed as well. Get your rose mallow in there, get your blue vervain, your New England, your New York ironweed, love to see some Pacora aurea, your groundsel. Like, so I have lists. We have ideas for you for that. I'm not going to waste any more time. But
No, that's great.
the idea is biodiversity that's going to, again, provide food for each moment of the season, and also plants that are going to provide high Lepidoptera support. So let's, I'm going to work on that document for you, and I'd like to meet with you again to give more specifics.
Yeah,
Connor.
please keep me in the loop. We have each
Yep.
other's contact.
Connor.
Yeah. Thanks, Tori. In lieu of what, you probably already know this, but I just sent the link to what I believe is the latest ordinance of the native plant ordinance for your referencing and whatnot. Leah and Tori, I don't know if it's worth providing the link of the expanded workbook, and that'll be continued to be worked on, but I don't know if we should share that with him now currently or what you would like to do. But
I think probably in a week we can.
Yeah, I want another week.
Sure, yeah, and I was just more of you just taking a look at it, but if Tyler and his colleagues wanted to meet up again, at least they had a reference point prior to that meeting. But also some things that came to mind while I was looking at it and Leah, thanks for bringing up the topic about maintenance plan with this location, and that I'm thinking of how a lot of these sites, especially residences, building areas, they like to be very liberal with the salt that they put out onto these locations. And so that a big concern of mine is spending all this money and time and preparation and creating a beautiful array and understory just to have the design itself, because you can't take account for how people are going to be salting it, but that if there's some way that the design can be created so it mitigates the amount of salt that could be leaching into these planting beds or being able to be moved off of site, whether, I don't know if this is a permeable pavement or whatnot, or if there's little abilities to buffer some of the planting beds so that they're not getting the salt runoff or salt additions. And lastly, you were mentioning Dawn Redwood, and just in your brief description and whatnot, and they are lovely trees, but they unfortunately will not do much for that winter buffer for the evergreen capacity. So
true. That's true. Yep.
I wouldn't, and the only reason I brought it up was because you mentioned it near the railroad track side of things. So if you are going to choose to implement that, I probably wouldn't do it on that side of the project as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Connor. Love the Arboretum, by the way.
I have a super quick one. Just I'm sure that you've looked at the site. Union Square floods regularly, and this is among the lower points in it. The site is actually over what we refer to as the Miller's River. That was a heavily polluted thing that went underground when the square was built up. So as you dig, you're going to hit contaminants, and you should plan for the lower part to be underwater regularly. Good luck. And welcome to Somerville.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh. Tyler and Juan, we are so happy you came to see us. We look forward to continue working with you. And I just need to say, I have not heard a presentation yet of a landscape architect or design firm use the word marcescence. We've been trying to say it, and Tyler used that word. Is about deciduous trees not losing their leaves in the winter. So like you had me at marcescence, and again, let's continue to work together. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, well, that was lovely. Let's move on to the next agenda item. That would be the 90 Washington Street project memo, and this is being helmed by Amy Myrtle. So Amy, take it away.
Yeah, so I don't know, has anyone gotten the memo? If not, would the organizers be able to put it in the chat or in the handouts or something?
I think I did not send it around thinking it had gone to everyone. I don't know how to put it in a chat when it's a Word document. Or was it a?
Amy, would you want to share your screen?
Yeah, I guess I can do it that way too.
I can email it to like UFC members too.
Sure.
If it would help, I can pull it up and share a screen.
I don't know if I'm allowed to. I don't think I can actually share my screen right now. So
here, I'll make you presenter. Emailing. Make presenter. There you go.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. What? I'm sorry. Now I got this weird, like, I don't know, some weird pop-up thing on my screen that is.
If it does help for Krista.
What? I'm not used to presenting on this one. Sorry, I'm having trouble figuring out how to do it.
Chris offered to.
Yeah, Chris, if you know how to do it, that would, because it's going to take me 5 minutes to figure it out.
Okay.
We will switch presenter.
Thank you.
All right. There we go. And I want this
and
one.
I just emailed it to UFC, so you guys have the copy.
All right, if I did that right, you are seeing you are seeing a Word document that starts off from Somerville Urban Forestry Committee. Cool.
Can you zoom in a little?
Stresses me to share like that.
Are you able to zoom in at all, Chris? Yeah, at least it's too small on my screen. Okay, that's a little bit better, I think. So yeah, so this is basically a follow-up. So you might remember a few months ago, the Public Safety Building Committee came and gave a presentation about their initial designs. And then since then they had a public meeting, they got more feedback, and a number of concerns were brought up by the resident group at Cobble Hill, who also sent us that letter that was read at, I don't remember if it was our last meeting or 2 meetings ago, but so we had a letter that was sent to us by that group. And so this is kind of a follow-up, just a response. I was thinking it might be at this point, because it seems like they are in the midst of now thinking about how they could incorporate some of that public feedback and maybe making some large changes to their initial plan designs. So if our committee wanted to send suggested feedback to them, regarding the trees on that site, it seemed like a good point to do it now while there's still some potential flexibility in design. At least it sounded like from their last meeting. So I wrote this kind of based on the trees that are being removed. They have this very large stand of mature pine trees, if you remember, that were in kind of 2 parcels. They have kind of the site split up into 3 parcels, and they had these mature pine trees in 2 of the parcels. And it's sort of a very unique space in East Somerville. There really aren't, if you look at the map, there really isn't any other space this large with these kind of large trees in that area. So that was something that kind of motivated me to want to put together some sort of statement from the committee. I know it's kind of hard to read this on the screen. I'm sorry, I didn't get it out earlier to everybody, but the main gist of it is that to really ask them to reconsider the value of these trees in their site plan and in their kind of discussion that I overheard. They talked a little bit about the carbon sequestration value. They're adding this, this current public safety building design has 40% reduction in energy usage from the public safety building they have now. And they sort of made the point that, this building, the savings from this building, vastly outweighs any carbon sequestration of the actual trees. And I just thought it was important to point out that that's not the only benefit the trees have, that there's also these air quality benefits, urban heat benefits, and just all these other benefits that are benefiting that neighborhood that will be lost if the trees are cut, even if the carbon sequestration value isn't factored in. And so I felt like it was something that we could ask them to reconsider a bit, given the value of these trees and their uniqueness, being located in East Somerville that has such a low canopy cover to begin with that has such high air quality pollution, and just to rethink about how they could save every tree possible on that site, to kind of maintain as many of those benefits as possible. So that's I guess what I wanted to discuss, to see if people like the idea of sending this type of message to that committee, if there are comments, concerns, you know, any sort. I know you're just seeing this now, so it's a little hard to make deep comments at the moment, but
if I may, I reviewed this. I've been looking at this site from a couple of different perspectives, and there are, you know, it seems like everywhere I turn, people have concerns about the current plan. I am really grateful to you for putting together the Urban Forestry Committee perspective focused on the trees, particularly on the fact that this is an area where we can ill afford to lose anything. And yeah, to your point, the carbon sequestration number is just one, you know, it reduces to a single number this hugely intersectional set of benefits, all the way from, you know, visual appeal to particulate reduction to shade and cooling, and, you know, all of it. So I personally love the memo. I don't know how the committee is going to proceed to edit it together, but I think it's a great idea.
thank you. Vanessa, did you have your, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to second Chris's appreciation. Sorry for not sending the memo out to everyone earlier, but I did get a chance to read it quickly, and I really appreciate the effort that went into this and all the background research. You're obviously a doctor. The only other thing, you know, I agree with you, these trees are important and all. I did just want to make sure everyone was aware that because of all of the feedback from the community about this project, it's got a lot more work to do. So I don't think the project is going to happen in the form that we saw presented to us, you know, a few months ago. That I don't think that negates a need or a purpose for sending a memo, so they know where we stand, but just wanted to let everyone know that nothing's going to be happening anytime super soon.
Thank you, that's good insight. Yeah,
Jennifer,
Jennifer.
thank you, Amy, for doing this. I'm glad you were able to make it to that meeting because I was unable to attend. I had a conflicting meeting. But I remember when they presented to us initially, and Althea probably has a lot more to say about this, because I think it was Althea who when we were looking at the plan, thought perhaps there could be a shift. And so obviously, maybe this is moot based on what Vanessa just said, but there could be a way maybe to restructure where that building sets so that we can try to save these trees, you know, that you can move the building. And we just brought that up with Tyler, for example. You know, how can we move buildings around so to optimize the green space? And I don't know if that's something we necessarily want to put in the memo, but I think that's something to keep in mind, that there is the potential, I think, to have a different footprint for that building that would help save those trees too. So maybe, I don't know if we need a line or two for that. And Althea, please chime in if I'm getting any of this wrong. But I think that's an important aspect of it, you know, to think that we can look at these plans and see how these things can be shifted. Sorry, Althea, go ahead.
Oh, I'm glad you brought it up. I was going to mention that too. I think that the plans that we saw were early enough and schematic enough that I was suggesting that there was room to ask the question, can these underground cells, that storage cells that have to be a part of this side yard where a lot of these mature trees are, can it be a design that's responsive to the trees that are there instead of just a rectangular monolith? And I don't see why we couldn't ask for that specifically in this letter, to say, you know, is there a way And is there a way to design the site that is responsive to at least a significant part of the stand of mature trees? And can we do that in a way that is clear to the public? Because if we can't save all of them, we could at least think about responsible ways to leave maybe the most mature of them, or some of the most the largest swath of them. I'm not sure. I haven't been to the site myself, so I can't speak to the site. But yeah, I could give a I could try to add something to the letter that would be helpful. That it's a specific request that we could maybe ask them to respond to.
Yeah, something concrete. Yeah.
Could I ask Councillor Wilson if you are still paying attention? I know we're going to lose you pretty shortly. I think that you're on this committee, the planning. Is that accurate? He may be logged in but not attentive. Basically, I'm curious if there are any near-term decisions that would be where it would help for us to get something rather than nothing in people's hands, or because the options are kind of to spend a bunch of time editing live now, or have a couple people tune it up a little and then approve it next week, because it sounds like people want to approve this.
Could we do an approval? I know it's a little tricky to do it not in the meeting, but say, like if Althea wanted to suggest some feedback, I can incorporate that or any other feedback and then send it over email for kind of a yay nay. Is that something we could do?
That's been challenging in the past because that's not a meeting, and we have a meeting to vote on stuff. So yeah, and I like the idea of providing specific actionable recommendations, like please don't put the building please shift the building footprint to allow us to keep some trees. I would love to see that phrase in here.
Well, maybe this is something that could, be worked on and approved for next meeting, unless Amy, I think because there's sort of a pause that might be okay, but Amy, if you're feeling differently, since this is your baby, I would support what you're feeling.
No, it's hard to, like, from the last meeting, it sounded like they were doing redesign now, and then they're going to have another meeting in February where they present, sort of, that was from the last meeting, that was what they said. But I don't know if Vanessa, if you have an update from that, maybe that timeline has shifted where they're not intending to try to put together a new plan by February anymore.
I don't have that. I don't have those details.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But if you're concerned, maybe we could live edit and just add in a sentence then that says, consider shifting the building or something.
Yeah, if that's the only edit, I think that'd be easy to add, but I don't know if other people have more.
I'm up to live edit. Is anybody opposed?
I think that's a great idea. I would have another edit. We can do that first one. I think Althea had really good language for it. What was the word you used? Responding?
Yes, I so much pressure.
Responsive.
I think that the structure that I was referring to wasn't the building footprint itself. I'm not sure if anything we say could change the building footprint, but there was some underground storage tanks that I think were going to affect a lot of the mature trees, from what I understood. And so what I was suggesting is that the plans in this next iteration of design show a responsiveness to the mature trees on site, or that the new plan responds more the new, maybe that the new plans could respond more more carefully to the existing site resources or the existing site trees on site. Yeah, I think that could be enough.
Did I get the spirit of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have another comment, and that would be, you know, I think anything is possible right now with this whole design. I think we're kind of really doing a reset. I would want just to add, considering putting the parking underground. I know they're working in a, you know, there are constraints with budget, but reducing parking, putting parking underground in order to, you know, conserve trees and allow for more open space. Another consideration I was thinking was that right now the way they have it is, so if you're on Washington Street, so and you're facing Cobble Hill, it's Cobble Hill, and then I think parcel A is the proposed police station, and then parcel B is to the right of that, and that's sort of a proposed community center. I'm wondering if the sort of that the layout is Cobble Hill, and then the community center, and then the police station is sort of like the center in between Cobble Hill and the public safety building would be more of a community center and open space. And maybe thinking about that could lend itself to keeping more of the trees and incorporating them. And in addition, can we move the trees? You know, we have technology. Instead of cutting them down, can we move them? I believe it's been done before. I have not, but it's. But yeah, go ahead.
Underground infrastructure in the urban settings won't allow for the movement of mature trees. That root ball for mature trees is going to be considerably larger, and the viability of them surviving is nil. Not to mention the costs associated.
They're also really packed close together, so you wouldn't be able to get a really good root ball for each tree. So I don't think moving these particular trees is possible.
Well, I guess working around them is what we can hope for. And thanks for that information, Vanessa and Malik. And well done, Amy. This is very thorough and thoughtful, and you obviously put a lot of work into it.
So I added a sentence, Tori. I said, we also encourage you to find ways to center the green, open, and natural spaces in the updated plan. And I feel like at this point, they're going back to the drawing board, and we should maybe, like, the specifics, I think we might want to leave to the design committee, but just getting a letter out there that says, hey, the trees are important, make it responsive to what's there, and to center on the green rather than centering on, like I don't even want to summon the negative really by saying centering on a big square building.
Yeah, I think
I support that.
To kind of keep the specifics to them, because I think if we try to add a specific, they'll have a way to, oh no, that won't work because of this, and then it might kind of negate the letter. Where if we just kind of keep it, just think about a way to focus on the trees, maybe that leaves it open for some more creativity.
Right. So I would be comfortable moving to approve this language, and then I could put it on our letterhead, and or Vanessa, you can put it on the letterhead, whatever you'd like.
You can do it.
Sounds
All right.
good.
Cool. And So, Madam Chair, I think we need to vote on that.
Just a minor thing, just changing the font to all be the same.
Okay, so I don't want to tinker with the font.
Over where it says section 1, there's no space between section and 1.
Where is section 1?
So I think it's where
Um,
the urban forestry master plan is cited. That's the top of the third paragraph, or not the top, but the first time that I mentioned the urban forestry master plan in the third paragraph. I referenced the first section of it in there.
Yes, after the word equity.
There you
There
go.
we go.
All right, and I will make font and other layout changes, not in the meeting.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing no hands. Motion to approve. How say ye, council? Amy,
Approve.
Althea,
Approve.
Chris Dwan,
I approve, no surprise.
Connor,
Approve.
Jennifer,
Approve.
Leah,
Approve.
Murphy,
Approve.
I approve. Vanessa,
Yes.
Malik,
Yes, approve.
did I forget anybody? The Urban Forestry Committee unanimously approves this document. Thank you, Amy. Good job, us.
Thank you.
Okay. Chris, will you read out the next agenda item because I just closed it?
Okay. Next up on the agenda is item 5, unauthorized work on a public shade tree at 205 Beacon Street. And if it's okay with you, I'll give a little context here.
Please do.
All right, so this is around the corner from where I live. There is a 4-story apartment building going up. There is a street tree at the intersection of Beacon and Ivaloo. And I came out one morning and noticed that most of the limbs on the property side of the tree had been chopped off. They'd been chopped off kind of unceremoniously in a way that didn't look like our usual tree crew or arborists would have done it. And so a neighbor went and spoke to the builder, and he said that, yeah, he did that. He understands that the process that the city does is a pain, and he was just going to wait to be fined. And I checked in with Vanessa. She confirmed that DPW did not do the work and that the builder had reached out about a year ago and then had learned about our tree hearing process and had not called back. So the reason any of that, is that broadly accurate, Vanessa?
Yes.
All right, so the reason I brought this up here is because I believe that if that's happening like literally on my block, then it's probably happening in other places in the city pretty regularly. Like, it seems to me that the kind of thing where if we've got a system where builders just go ahead and chop big limbs off of trees, street trees, that's probably something that's going on elsewhere. And so I'm curious from this committee if there is what we think we could do to bring people into, like, to draw people into compliance with the law, and then also to better enforce the law. Like, because clearly the fines are not scaring people enough that they don't do it.
I think this fine might scare them,
Okay.
but they might not know that yet. But I'm working with legal to the full extent of the law, and based on the amount of pruning that was done. The tree is effectively dead because we're gonna have to remove it. It's no longer viable. So they're going to be fined for the removal and replacement of 3 times the amount of caliper inches that are lost. So it's going to be a very big bill.
Okay.
Hopefully they will tell their friends. But if you have any other ideas, do let me know.
Could you clarify why? Oh, sorry, Jennifer, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
I didn't quite understand why was the city process cumbersome? Like, don't you just call 311 and ask the city to prune the tree? I guess why was it cumbersome for them? They didn't want to do that.
They actually emailed about removal of the tree based on needing, the spot to do work, basically. And that was a year ago. And so I explained the tree hearing process and that they would be responsible for replacing the amount of caliper inches of the tree per our city ordinance.
Oh, okay. They want to. Okay,
that was the cumbersome. They
they
never requested pruning that I'm aware of.
Okay, I see. Gotcha.
Jennifer, you had some
Yeah,
thoughts?
some time ago we talked about revisiting the TPO, the tree preservation ordinance, and I wonder if there's something we can do there that would help address some of these actions, to help either as a preventative measure, but also maybe we need to have stronger measures against removals of trees, or in this case, the illegal pruning of a tree, and to make sure that it's known in that TPO that that's not cool. So, I don't know if that's something we want to revisit. I think we were going to, I think we've talked about this before. Maybe it's time to do that and try to strengthen the TPO a little bit as starters. As far as outreach and getting the information out there, I think maybe we can just kind of continue in the vein that we have been and include this sort of information in some of our outreach events that we do. At least that could be part of a solution. I'm really discouraged about that.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed as well. And yeah, I think that Vanessa, you said it well. I hope they tell their friends, and I hope that we tell our friends that, in fact, and this is exactly when we were drafting the original tree preservation ordinance. This was the target, was developers and builders coming in and treating our street trees and our trees on private property as though they were of no value. Right, and just going ahead and cutting them because they're literally in the way of a forklift. Like they're lifting materials up to the 4th floor. I get it, but so yeah, I mostly wanted to surface this in a public forum. I don't know that we can do much else, but yeah, Jennifer, I think maybe it is time to revisit the tree preservation ordinance now that we've got a net new council who would probably be interested in that. Oh, I see a counselor nodding. Excellent.
Yeah.
Just should we pursue that then? Should we set up a working group for that and move forward with that idea?
Yeah, I think I've been promising to host that working group for like at least 2 years, and I just haven't gotten to it because pandemic and tired. But let's do that.
Yes. Well, I'm with you, Chris.
Awesome.
I'll help.
And I know Vanessa is as well. Anybody else?
Connor. Oh, I saw Connor's hand.
I just had a question real quick. Well, the tree size that we're talking about, just to get some figures, like what was the size of the tree that big? So like 20 inches?
Something.
I feel like it was 12-ish.
12-ish, and then
Yeah.
how much of a fine are we talking for them? Ballpark.
I am hoping for about $20,000.
Cool. Okay.
That'll make them.
Vanessa. So
that'll hurt.
That fine more than what they would have paid if they went through the normal process, or is it the same? That's
Yeah,
more.
about it's triple.
It's triple. Okay, well then that seems like an incentive.
That's a really valuable fact. Like if you don't follow the rules, the fine is triple.
So, Vanessa, you said you were working with legal, and that did you say that they had to replace the caliper size like 3 times? And
Yeah.
and what is that law?
They're gonna give me the money. So so the 1 times is based on like our replacement standards in our city ordinance. And then I can charge 3 times for doing something like wantonly. That's probably not the right word. There is a Massachusetts general law that you can impose a 3 times fine, like if you are willfully not following the rule and they knew the rule. So that seems like a good use of that law.
And is this law specific to trees?
No.
Okay, that would be good information to have for the tree preservation ordinance that that
I'll
already
go
stands.
find the number and put it in the chat so you guys can look it up.
Okay, yeah, when you get a chance. Wow, Vanessa. Aw, just you blow my socks off today. Great job.
Excellent. That was what I wanted to cover here.
Okay, anybody else? Murphy, how you doing?
Doing good.
Okay, okay. Jennifer.
Yeah, I just wanted to address the comment that Renee left in the chat about an annual ecological info flyer to all households, you know, where there could be things such as leaf blower ordinance, tree preservation info, et cetera. And I mean, I think that would be great to cover lots of different things that we could do and probably could be a part of an outreach effort. Whether or not that would get to builders and developers and the people actually working on the properties, you know, whether or not they'd actually see those things maybe would happen and maybe it wouldn't. But, you know, I think that could be part of an effort that we could use to sort of disseminate the importance of tree preservation. So thanks, Renee.
I think that's a great idea because once you inform the residents, like, you know, what do you do if you see someone like lopping off limbs that isn't the DPW? And if we inform the residents who are the eyes on the ground, then I think we would get, you know, more reporting of such incidents.
Would it be possible to collaborate with I know the recycling flyer has been on every apartment I've been to in Somerville. So it seems like a hot ticket item. Is there a way we could collaborate with that and do, you know, get a couple inches of real estate?
So I've been in conversations with Christine, I forget her last name, from Office of Sustainability, and she doesn't think that would work. She doesn't seem keen on it, and maybe we can try it again. But I'm all for like a standalone flyer on, you know, tree care, rules surrounding trees. What do you do if a branch is broken? You know, who's Vanessa? Tell me about Vanessa. I'm not sure. Yeah, I would, again, I would love to get some real estate on that flyer, but I just sort of at an impasse right now.
Yeah, thanks for
sustainability.
Is there someone else in the city we could reach out to just to get a like cost estimate on that? Because if it's like, you know, $20,000, then I have a good idea for our budgetary uses. But if it's like, I don't know how much, I guess you could do some simple math. Yeah.
Sorry, was this like our own, like a separate flyer just for us? Yeah, it's very expensive. I don't remember a total number. I think communications would know.
Yeah, because if it's
Denise said it in a budget once, but I think it's more than 20,000 to mail it to all the residents in the city.
And that'd be annually.
Yeah, and we definitely do not have that kind of budget for UFC.
Question. How did we get the word out before about the tree preservation ordinance when it was released almost 3 years ago?
There was a press release about it, so it got picked up. And then, you know, we had our website to point people to. We also reached out to all of the like tree and landscaping companies we know of to reach out to, like with our purchasing contract stuff. So some tree companies were made aware of it. That's all I know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wonder if this particular item is, I mean, we know who the developers are, like sharing information with the developers, you know, because we know who they are, and that might change how they direct their contractors. Or it'll be like, well, that's just cost of doing business. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
could we've got this standing item on our agenda for outreach. Maybe we could plan to use that next meeting and think about another publicity push.
Jennifer.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I was just thinking about the letter that you all developed to send to developers to ask them to come and, you know, discuss with you the species and things. Perhaps there could be a sentence, you know, please be aware of the laws manipulating trees, and link it to the TPO or something like that. You know, maybe that could be one sentence in that letter that also gets that information out there. Just a thought, but I mean, we can think about that during the outreach thing, but yeah, you know, just a way to get the developers in the fold of information.
Well, if that is something the outreach would be willing to take on, that would be great. And maybe it is a standalone letter regarding the rules, or as you suggested, Jennifer. Okay, anything else on this item? Do you feel, is this good, Chris?
I feel complete, thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, Vanessa. Go get them.
Yeah, thank you, Vanessa. Okay, we have updates from the city. Well, you know, we're coming on time. Can we get through city tree removals, and can we get through A, B, and C, do you think? Let's go for that, and then we can reassess at 6:30 what we want to do. So floor is yours, Vanessa and Malik.
Thank you. City tree removals does not have a lot to discuss. We have a list, but we haven't done any since we last met, even the ones that I had planned. So there will be some sometime, but none yet. There are 2 semi-urgent ones that'll probably take precedence, but I will let you all know when removals will be happening, but right now, none.
Okay. Private tree removals, permits and exceptions. Malik?
Alrighty, that list is up to date as of probably late December. And so we've come to the end of the year. This year we've had 63 trees removed due to exemptions. we've had 141 trees removed through permitting. Some overlap a little bit in terms of like some properties had both trees removed due to exemption and some permitting, but there's been little overlap. And our mitigation trees that we will have developers plant 263 trees. And we have got in restitution funds $129,600.
That is excellent. I hope I'm very proud, and Chris Dwan in particular, I hope you are glowing with joy right now, and for all the city staff who helped make that happen. Congrats. Thank you, Malik. Thank you for doing what you do.
Oh, no problem, anytime.
Yeah.
Thank you, Malik. Can you repeat the last two numbers? I'm just trying to get it in the minutes.
Oh, understood. Let's see. So
the replacement trees and then the overall money
would be 263 trees, and mitigation funds to the amount of $129,600.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
And is that forever to date or 2021?
Just the year of 2021. Yep. And thus far, I've received 2 permit applications and 1 permit will be issued. And a total of 6 trees will be removed, but they're both owner occupants, so there's no mitigation cost. 1 homeowner plans to replace 1 tree.
Okay, well, thank you. Maybe they'll feel inspired to put in a few more. Tree planting, city tree planting.
Thank you. Our final count for the fall planting was 260 trees. There is still a punch list of things they need to fix in the spring, but we're considering those most done or mostly done. We will shoot to plant 185 trees in the spring, which is just over our 175 goal. Sorry, that makes it to 350 for the year if we plant 175 per season. So that's it. We got to start planning for spring already.
So is that list available?
The fall list?
The spring list. Oh.
Nope, don't have it yet. We actually need a new contract, so there's lots to do.
Okay, well, I'm interested. I hope this committee will be able to maybe to weigh in and personally I'm interested in you know how that new contract works, and maybe we can discuss it at the next meeting.
I might get it out. Well, we'll see. I'm gonna try to work on it and get it out before, but I can share previous contracts with you if you'd like to look at them over, the scope of work and technical specifications, and it won't change very much. And I will, send species lists to you as I've done before when we're, making the final decisions. If you have other suggestions for things to add, then, I'm open to listening to those for sure. But if you want to look through what the contract already states, it's very detailed. So, maybe some of it's already encompassed, or some of the things you're thinking.
I was wondering that if we might be able to have language in there that says, you know, we are looking to prioritize native species and just to like get it on their radar. You know, I know it's in the ordinance, but if we had something in the contract that highlighted it, you know, I guess putting it in awareness as soon as possible for contractors, that I would love to see a single sentence to that effect, if that's something you could do.
I can definitely do that and point them to the native species ordinance. Ultimately, they're not telling me what trees to plant, I tell them. So, but you know,
Okay.
definitely raising awareness is smart. So yeah, no problem.
Anyone else? So what I was thinking, I'm thinking that we table the, unless we want to go on longer, that we go on to work updates, and maybe we'll circle back to the native species plantings for next meeting, unless it is the desire of this board to perhaps go another 15 minutes. Okay, for now, let's just go on to work updates. Adopt a tree.
I don't think there's anything brand new to offer here. We've had our meetings, our kind of handover meetings, and I think those things are in good shape, leading up to our new spring effort. So I think we're all set there. There's nothing new to report. On the root collaboration, I did just send an email out to try to have that follow-up meeting to do a similar kind of handover, kind of stitch up some projects that we got started, hopefully at the beginning of February, if people can do that. So if you didn't get the email about an hour before this meeting started, I'm happy to forward it to you. If you'd like to be a part of that, just let me know or shoot me an email. That's it for that. Nothing else has happened in the interim.
Thank you, Althea, for your continued work and handoff. Outreach.
Maybe just a quick, Amy and I have started the Arbor Day poster contest preparations, but that is just starting to get underway so that we can get it started by the end of the month, maybe beginning of February. So we'll have more to report next month on that.
SAP, tree selection and planting standards, or species selection and planting protocol.
I think we'll also have more to update for the next meeting. We've been emailing and setting some tangible goals. So, and then maybe before the next meeting, we'll have our updated spreadsheet to share with some of the designers who come to present.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is to make a motion to extend this meeting for until at least 6:40, if not 6:45, to go over the native plants species for those plantings. Guess I'm looking for a second and then a discussion to see if people are, if that is something you guys are willing to do. Okay, Chris seconds. Volunteer to discussion. Anything? Okay, thank you, and thank you for Renee for chiming in. I saw that. Okay, could we, Vanessa, could you lead us on that discussion?
Sure.
Actually,
can I interrupt really quickly?
Of course I'll be here.
I'm gonna have to head out. Maybe the cleanest way to do this is to pass the baton right now, because I do have to leave. So if someone else can take minutes and share them with me for this last bit of information, I'll add it to my work. Thank you guys, and I will see you next month.
Thank you.
Bye.
I'll try to take notes as I'm talking. I think it could be doable. I'm going to make myself presenter, but as I do that,
I was thinking, Vanessa, is it possible, you might already have planned to do this, but to give a bit of background on the native planting ordinance and then the section of reporting, if you could do that.
Sure.
If not, I'll
Vanessa.
introduce it.
Vanessa, I can take notes for you so you don't have to do two things at once.
That would be easier, actually, if I'm sharing my screen. Thank you. Thanks, Connor. All right, let me pull up. So a little bit of background. The native planting ordinance was passed sometime in 2021, and I can't remember exactly when. Tori, do you remember offhand?
Yes, it was March 25th, and it was
March
enacted, I think that was the date, and then went into effect on a few months later in May.
Thank you. Can you see it now, everyone?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this is the ordinance. So basically, it directs plantings of all plantings on city property to have some portion of native species. The amount depends on the location. So it's 100% native species in riparian areas, community path, the Green Line Extension Rail Corridor, I believe, and then in a little bit of tougher areas like bioswales, plazas, and streetscapes. It allows for a little bit less, certain percentages less than 100%. So, so in those sort of streetscape areas, it's a 50%, at least 50% native. In city parks, it's 75% native or more. Street trees is 50% native or more. And then there's a few exceptions to this list. That's sort of the basic bones, but there are other details as well. There is a reporting requirement that by December, this last section, or this section here, by December 31st, the city is supposed to compile a list of plants that were planted, per the ordinance in the prior fiscal year. So that would be fiscal year 2021, which ended June 30th, and then explain, how many of those were native, and if they weren't native, why not? Also, for those of you who aren't familiar with the ordinance, native in this case, we've defined as native to east of the Mississippi River. So it's not just native to our specific locale. So since the ordinance didn't go into effect until May, then not very many plantings are ready for reporting and were subject to the ordinance. So this list is not going to be very extensive that I'm going to show you. I was going to say something else and I forgot. So I will pull up the list that I created somewhere. You can see my organization here. No, it's not there. So I do need to put this online. I just finished putting it together, but basically I've added into this list the projects that had plantings basically in the spring of 2021. So that was my tree contract, and the DPW did some plantings in June. So we have discussed these already, actually probably all of them. Technically sorry, this says spring 2019, but that's not right. It's spring 2020. Technically, they're not subject to the ordinance because the contract was in place before the ordinance was enacted, but I put them on there because I aimed to meet the 50% requirement, and I did. So, so just wanted to let you know that. So I have this spreadsheet set up so that different departments can report directly what they planted. So it's organized by species. And then because the requirements are different in streets and parks, I have an area type calculation. So this is the big list, but I've also summarized it in a pivot table, not very pretty, but practical. So in city parks, we planted 58 trees total. Some of that was DPW, some of that was Malik and I. That was 72.4% native. And our street trees, we planted 75 in the spring and 60% was native. So more than required for the street trees. We're a little bit shy for the park trees for the requirement. This is a learning process, and we have talked about that before with DP, about what happened with DPW. So that is my report. Are there any questions?
I have questions, but I would like my fellow members to speak first. Okay. Oh, Jennifer.
Sorry, I wasn't prepared. If you could scroll back up, Vanessa, there were some, the hydrangea and the rhododendron. There are 14 plants there for Stone Place Park. Are there any, can the group maybe, are there any acceptable replacements for those that could be aesthetically pleasing plants that are of that size that could be planted in place of those? So that's a lot of plants. I can't think of any offhand that are about that size, but I'm sure there must be.
Are there native ones?
Native versions of all of, like there's native.
Yeah, like things that would be aesthetically pleasing that are about that size that would be, I mean, the hydrangeas are beautiful, but there's got to be a replacement that's just as attractive that
I think
could
part of it
potentially
was
take that
also
place.
like a learning curve where, the grounds folks may not really know what native is and not, and it's, they didn't know what to ask for when they went to the nursery. So I think that is something that can easily be changed going forward.
Because these are really common go-to varieties and species that we've planted in Somerville in the past. So maybe shifting some of that would, for the future, would be appropriate.
So Jennifer's question, of course we have all of our native plants, in my opinion, are aesthetically pleasing. Nature in general is aesthetically pleasing, so it doesn't matter where it comes from. We have, of course, oak leaf hydrangea and aberensis, I think, is a native hydrangea. So yeah, we do have them, and I'm just wondering if, well, no, I'll say it. I'm wondering if we can help give direction to DPW so they're not sort of stranded at the nursery like, what am I supposed to get? That would be something that I would love to work on in the new year. Just, because it would be an educating, an opportunity for them to educate, them, and also an opportunity for lines of communication for us to work on that process of communicating and just building bridges that way. So currently, how is it structured? That is it that the DPW chooses plants for parks?
I mean, when a park's being designed, then it's PISA who works with the consultant. But for like fill-in plantings or maintenance things, yes, that's DPW. And I'm not sure. So the small hitch is that I don't know how far in advance they know what they're going to do, or, you know, they might just realize they have some extra money at the end of the year, and, you know, some park might need a little bit, so they just like jump on that opportunity. So it can be challenging because they're very focused on like a day-to-day to sort of figure out how to plan in advance. If you have a way to do that, that would be awesome. Help me do it too.
Yeah. Well, I guess, you know, just kind of in my mind, like one way is I'd love to develop a casual relationship with whoever is making these decisions. You know, you just give him or her a call, or him or they a call, and I mean, yeah, I guess I want to learn more, and I think having a casual and professional relationship with whoever's making these decisions is one way to go about it. And I want to support you, Vanessa, in however I can. And I'm sure, I mean, we all know how hard you work. So,
I
yeah, it would
believe
be good to
I
know
believe the director of grounds makes, you know, those kinds of decisions, but I'm not 100% sure of that. Who's Ben Waldrop?
Oh, Ben.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it ultimately comes to him. I'm not sure, you know, if he specifically chose these plants. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, do you mind if I reach out to him? Do you want me to CC you on that?
Sure. Yeah.
And I'll CC you, Chris, and then maybe we can report back at the next meeting just to be like, hey, we met or had a conversation, or because I want to make that happen. I want us to I want us to be tight. I want all of our departments to be tight with each other. So
can I suggest also, all the way back to 2 hours ago, we learned we're getting a full-time tree warden on Monday who reports into DPW and who is going to be a member of this committee. And I think that cannot help but help, right? That's going to be within their DPW reporting hierarchy. It won't be building in the grounds necessarily, but yes to engaging directly, and yes to rolling the tree warden in. I'm really psyched to have that as a full-time position. Like, that's the job.
Definitely. I don't know that the tree warden probably won't. Well, I don't know. I would imagine he wouldn't be in charge of like doing these types of plantings, but at least he would have more of those relationships that
But yeah, so like sitting in the same building and reporting into the same boss, and it can't help but help.
at Stone Place Park, I did not see the woodland phlox when I was there during the summer. I'm hoping that I just overlooked it. I hate to think that it might be to think that they could possibly have been removed, but I'm hoping I just stumbled over them, and that's the case. But we'll see in a few months.
Well, Ben had said that he definitely bought the 2 flats and they put them in the ground, but there was a lot of bunny work on those guys. Ooh. So I don't know I don't know how many made it or if any. So.
Well, sometimes bunny pruning can result in a more robust plant, and sometimes that does not work. So one other thought I had, I mean, in addition to sort of needing to work on the native planting ordinance, because that's 75%, we really need to have that, be vegetative matter. But it's a learning curve, right? And I'm wondering if we could also have a mid-year report on what was planted, because I am very curious to know what was planted in July, August, September.
I'm happy to
And
share the trees that I planted list, but it's a lot of effort to try to get everyone else's lists together. It's an effort that I do for Tree City USA in terms of the trees, but that's due at the end of the year, which is why we structured the report like this.
I see.
But I mean, a lot of the trees that go in are ones that I've planted, so I'm happy to do that for you.
Well, that would be lovely, as long as it's not too much more work for you. And I'll, when I contact Ben, maybe he's like, yeah, here's the inventory for the rest of the summer. And maybe that's something that can just be sort of unofficially reviewed, Are there any more questions? Any more comments on this item? Is anybody popping up in the chat from our community, from our residents and attendees? Looks like we're good. Murphy, how you doing? Not to put you on the spot. Okay, love to see your face someday, but however you feel most comfortable interacting. All right, we have come to the end of our meeting. Oh, meeting minutes. Shoot. Have people had a chance to go over the meeting minutes for December? If I'm being honest, I have not, but I'll take a quick look at them right now. Sorry, guys. Oh.
And we're doing both November and December?
I haven't sent out November yet. I haven't.
No, just November. Okay. I mean, December. Okay, they look good to me. Thank you again for taking them in the detail. Could someone make a motion to approve them? I don't think I can.
So moved.
Seconded.
If we have
Second,
to.
Vanessa. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so approved. And I believe now it's adjournment time. I lost the agenda again. All right. Thank you all for coming. It's so lovely to see your faces. Do we have someone to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second. Chris.
Second.
Seconds. All right. All in favor? Yay, we did it. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for attendees. We'll
Good to see
you
everyone.
Good to see everybody.
Thanks for another great meeting.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.